have to come up with something to say. Something I've been thinking about lately is how we relate to forms, how we relate to any form. In other words, the simple way, the way that everybody will understand, is how you relate to a rule or a law. The same way you relate to a building, a doorway. It's a different. You can't go through a wall. You probably can. If you can, I'd like to hear about it. But we go through a door. We find the door and go through the door. So it isn't like there's any rule there. You don't have to put a rule. You have to go through the door. You're going to come into this building. So it's kind of silly. Of course, we're going to go through the door. You wouldn't have to post that. But as rules or laws or forms or structures get more rarefied and less and more about concepts, then we have to have a little bit more guidance, and we have to have some reminders about the form. In Buddhism is an awareness practice. It is about seeing what is true, not about believing anything. Someone asks me, what do I believe? I say, not much. I look at everything very closely as much as I can, but even if you come to me with proof, I just gave a talk on the Daily Dharma Gathering Friday night, and the title was All Evidence is Partial. You can't have complete evidence about anything because there's no way you can see the root of everything. It's like saying, well, it's kind of obvious if you reflect on it. There's no way you can completely know about cause and effect. You can know the simple part, this, when I move it down, interferes or strikes this, creates a sound. So there's a cause of that moving and the effect of the sound going out. So we went from something that was a physical motion into something that was another form, or the sixth sense feels. So as Buddhists, as meditators, in our tradition, down through the centuries, we've been looking at what is this? Why questions, I like to say, are circular. You can say, why is this? Why is this? But you're always going to get that kind of a situation that, sure, you'll get an answer, but then why is that? And then you get another answer. You'll say, well, why is that way? And then what do? We look for blame. We look for blame, or we look for credit. Who's really doing well? Our whole society, our culture runs on this constantly. It's everywhere. It's so difficult. The world is infected with it. It's like a plague of bullshit. Well, maybe that doesn't fit too well. But it's like some kind of contamination based on consensus reality that we all go along with it. We believe it, we support it, and so therefore we're at the mercy of it, and we can't. It's difficult to move your awareness beyond the societal forms that people just take for granted. Well, sure, I believe this, I believe that. Well, you don't believe this? I like to point out that it's it's not that I don't believe some things. I kind of take certain things for granted without really knowing for sure. The image I always use over and over, and I might as well use it again, is I believe our car is in the parking lot. Why? Because we just parked it there. But I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. And to have that kind of awareness operating is not particularly paranoia. It might seem like it, but it operates in a similar way, but it's not operating out of hope and fear. It is operating out of what? Out of awareness, and also out of curiosity. Of saying what is actually occurring each moment. If you do that, if you function that way, if you train your mind, there's no guarantee you won't sign anything. But if you sit down and train your mind, you don't have to believe in anything. You don't even have to study Buddhism. You don't have to become a Buddhist. Becoming a Buddhist is something you decide to do. Nobody's going to sell you on it. If anybody is selling you on Buddhism, it's not Buddhism. It's somebody's idea of what people should do, which is, again, that same word I used a few minutes ago. So we have to, it's a transcendental do-it-yourself project with the help of somebody who's done it for a while. Somebody's done it for over 40 years. You sit, you practice, you study, you practice, you study, and then you come back and say, what about this? Sorry, go back. You go back and you practice and study, and then you come up and you say, I think it's this. And then the teaching person might say, close, but go back. And you go back to the wall. And at some point, the discovery, the realization that will occur to you, that will fill your mind, that will fill your body, your heart, your everything, right through the floor, through the whole earth, will fill it up. You'll see that it's always been there, that you've always known this. It's called realization. It is not an experience. It is not. That's an experience. Where's that now? It's gone. Experiences come, they may last for 20 minutes, 20 years, but they leave, including the experience of being a human being. This is going to go. Just a matter of time and space. So what do we do in the meantime with our life? This is why in our tradition we have something called the 4 reminders. And the first one goes like this. First, contemplate the preciousness, the value of being free to come to this building. We're not in another part of the world where you can't do this. Free and well-favored. Well-favored in that your mind is not like most of the people you know, all shut down and in opinions and judging things without even investigating. Belief. The people are just, if you mention, oh, I went to a meditation hall today and heard a guy talk about meditation. Well, is that thing where they worship the Buddha or worship golden idols? Or you cannot explain this to anyone. This is very difficult material to explain to someone because they lump it in with all the other opinions and ideas they have about religions and so on. We're not saying this is the best. We're not saying anything. We're just saying this is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to see using a form of holding still. And some people, if you come here and practice, if you practice here, all the forms that are set up, you practice 6.5 hours a day. There might be another monastery that does this, but I haven't found one. 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours a day. Why is it 6.5 hours? Because it looks like it needs to be that much time if you want to do that. 2 hours in the morning, 2.5 in the afternoon, 2 hours at night. And then Sunday, this is the shortest time. You sit for 10 minutes. I get up and say stuff. We chant the sutras. And then the rest of the day, we take off. Saturday, there's still several hours of practice and study, but it ends at 4 in the afternoon. These are forms that we do what we observe in our practice, in our lineage, and in this teaching person, we observe forms. And when you observe a form, you observe the way in which you can't quite do it. If you put a personal form would be writing on a piece of paper and taking a magnet and put it on your refrigerator and say, I meditate every morning at 7 o'clock. Then you notice that you can't quite do that. Sometimes, maybe you'll do it for 3 weeks straight, and then you'll start giving yourself merit badges, the gold stars or something down there. It's not about praise and blame. It's not about success and failure. It's always about awareness. You may need some encouragement. The only encouragement I got from my first teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, Tibetan Buddhist meditation master and scholar, was, you can do it. And that's when I came to him with